Recent studies show that in contemporary mass media, representation of Asian people in Western media are still extremely rare. In fact, a study conducted titled Tokens on the Small Screen, which focuses on the representation of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, or AAPI, on television in the 2015 to 2016 season, revealed that AAPIs make up only 4% of series regulars as opposed to white regulars, who make up a whopping 70%, and that 64% of all shows do not feature a single AAPI series regular, while 96% of TV shows have at least one white series regular. It also revealed that over one-third of all AAPI series regulars appear on just 11 shows, and that over half of them have been cancelled, cutting overall AAPI representation by 21%. In another study titled Media, Diversity, and Social Change Initiative, which examines the portrayals of gender, race and ethnicity, LGBT, and disability from 2007 to 2015 in 800 films, revealed that Asian characters make up only 3.9% versus the 73.7% of white characters. This is not even taking into consideration British media, of which Mira Shao commented have actually gone backwards when it comes to the portrayals of Asian people, saying that the representation of Asian people on British television has moved backwards amid a conservative climate that favors nostalgia and period drama. So why is this important? Why is the representation of Asian people in media so important, and why should we be critical of it? Douglas Kellner said that radio, television, film, and the other products of media culture provide materials out of which we forge our very identities, our sense of selfhood, our notion of what it means to be male or female, our sense of class, of ethnicity and race, of nationality, of sexuality, and of us and them. Media images help shape our view of the world and our deepest values, what we consider good or bad, positive or negative, moral or evil. Media stories provide the symbols, myths, and resources through which we constitute a common culture and through the appropriation of which we insert ourselves into this culture. In essence, it is important when it comes to media consumption to take into consideration the issues of representation such as race, gender, and sexuality, as it has the power to affect how people think and behave within society and how they treat people belonging to the aforementioned groups. In the last few years, there has been movies and television series released that are chock full of racist Asian stereotypes and Orientalist tropes, from the whitewashing of the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, a movie that also plays into the white savior stereotype of having a white man receiving exotic powers of Asian origins, which he then uses to save the world, to Ghost in the Shell, a movie based on a Japanese anime where they changed the plot from the original source material so that they could place the consciousness of the protagonist, who is a Japanese woman, into a white body played by Scarlett Johansson, while explicit Asian imageries are used for the enemies that the Japanese turned white main character had to fight, to the Orientalist-laden Iron Fist, which features a white man who is portrayed as being more adept at being Asian than the other Asian characters in the show. It is safe to say that issues of Asian representation in Western media are still very much a problem. In order to learn more, I have chosen to interview Paul Brett, the founder of Flying Tiger MA, a film distribution company with a focus on films made by Asian people, to provide more insight.
The point with that is, what happened with that production, I happened to see that film in Shanghai in IMAX, and the audience wasn't very big, and yet the most successful territory was China. They spent too much money to make the film. The film cost $175 million, and so they felt we have to have a big Hollywood actress in it to make the money back. In fact, the film should have cost much, much less and had an authentic cast that was authentic in reading the lines and told the story of the original anime.
This goes hand in hand with the age-old sentiment of Hollywood directors saying that movies with minorities in lead roles are gambles, an example being Ridley Scott, who attempted to defend his casting of white actors in leading roles in Exodus, Gods and Kings by claiming that the lack of actors from the Middle East in major roles was dictated by financial concerns, saying, "I can't mount a film of this budget where I have to rely on tax rebates in Spain and say that my lead actor is Mohammed so-and-so from such and such." In short, Hollywood believes that films with people of color as leads do not bring in as much money as films with white leads. And yet, a recent study conducted by the Ralph J. Bunche Center for African American Studies called 2017 Hollywood Diversity Report proved otherwise, revealing that films with diverse leads not only resulted in higher box office numbers, but also higher returns of investment for studios and producers.
And it's like, it isn't just black and white. There's got to be assimilation and real promotion of diversity through all colours, all races, all sexualities, all creeds, all religions, so that we want to see more from China, we want to see more from India and Pakistan and Africa.
When one takes into consideration how, in the last few years, Hollywood has been relying on China both for their box office revenue and multi-billion-dollar investments in studio slates and independent film companies, it reveals a certain level of hypocrisy on Hollywood's part, wherein they rely on the Chinese audience to turn in a profit for their films, but at the same time show reluctance in actually casting Asian people in said films. This reveals a certain disconnect within Hollywood when it comes to diversity, where the impact of people of color in Western media is both paradoxically a dangerous gamble and a relative goldmine. Even without outright stating it, the implication is clear. Hollywood wants China's money, but not the people that comes with it.
I always cite there are a number of films that are made by Hollywood with Chinese money. Ghost in the Shell, Godzilla, The Great Wall, Warcraft, Transformers 4, Kong Skull Island, and all of these films, Hollywood has come to China, taken the money, and not even said thank you. The only one of these that had Chinese cast and crew in it was The Great Wall. And that was an odd hybrid because you had an incredibly Chinese story and Matt Damon, and it wasn't integrated very well. It was a perfectly okay film that did very well in China, but it wasn't very well marketed in the West.
In conclusion, while major strides have been made when it comes to diversity in Western media, the representation of Asian people in the Western film industry is still sorely lacking, and more needs to be done in order to rectify this issue. One can only hope that with the rising prominence of the Chinese film market and its collaboration with Hollywood in recent years,
we have an appetite to see China on film, to learn about Chinese actors and Chinese directors, and to hear Chinese stories. We want to see them on the screen, and so I think there should be much more effort put into the export of Chinese films with subsidy, with curation, and with much more focus on festivals to persuade critics to talk about the films and to curate them on behalf of China.
the increase in Chinese movies released that are set in the West in order to appeal to the Western audience,
that we are looking to do that, very much so, and there's just been a very firm practice of Chinese films being made in China for Chinese audiences. This is beginning to change with films like Operation Red Sea, Wolf Warrior 2, as well as Detective Story, set in Bangkok, set in New York, where you're seeing Chinese heroes and comedians and dramatic actors in exotic locales. So there'll be more desire to see these heroes done in foreign circumstances. What's interesting is to see further collaboration between Chinese technicians, Chinese artists and the technicians and artists from the West.
That this would help in getting more Asian people both in front of the screen and behind it, and increasing the popularity of movies made by Asian directors starring Asian characters in the West.
I think what we'll see happen in the next 10 years, until 2030, say, is that the role of China and the Chinese abroad will change, so that there will be more stories about the Chinese operating in other cities and other countries and even other planets. I think we'll start to see Chinese science fiction and space movies, as well as more interest in Chinese films being seen abroad.